Cape Town is extremely segregated. It feels, when you just drive out a little bit outside of, where I live, or the CBD, or, the predominantly white spaces, you see apartheid. It's still here. And that's all because of the Group Areas Act, and how they told colored people must go live here and black people will live here. And this is predominantly white spaces.
During the apartheid time, it was very difficult for colored people to buy houses in well-located areas. Even if they would stay in the areas that you mentioned, like your Bo-Kaap and stuff, they would still have to stay by renting. And that's still continuing even now. It's very hard for colored and black people to buy houses in well-located areas because the areas have been gentrified and the property market value has increased. And the rents themselves by these private property developers has been increased. And most colored and black people who are staying in areas like Woodstock, Salt River, Bo-Kaap, Sea Point, same as black people, they can't keep up with the increasing rents.
I'm from Manova Park. Manova Park is based in the Cape Flats. I was raised there, and I find myself not wanting to spend time there. My family is there. I don't spend a lot of my time there. I just sleep, wash. I spend most of my time in the CBD because I feel like there isn't anything for me to do in the hood. There's nothing there. It doesn't feel like home to me.
You carve your identity with your parents in your home, and from your home you step out to become your own person from your home because of the things you learn inside your home. You live there and you love there. You foster your own principles as well as the principles your parents try to instill into you.
We own nothing. Like, we have nothing. We don't own the house that we've been paying rent for 50 years.
When I said gentrification in class, they looked at me like, what is that? And they were shocked because I don't take that to school. But now they know. They're more aware of what's going on.
My name is Lavern Maart. I'm 26 years old and I'm from Hanover Park.
Well, my name is Jayden Salagee and I'm 17 years old. I live in Plumstead and I'm a scholar at Plumstead High School.
Growing up, I didn't really understand identity that well. My mother is a very individual person, so she's always speaking about identity as in who you are as a person. If you want to rise above your circumstances, you can do it. There was never in the conversation taken into account what happened prior, like systemic oppression and stuff that actually led us to have a collective identity as well as our individual identity, who we are as individuals. Now I understand identity to be much more than me as an individual. I understand it to be what happened before to cause my people to have the certain issues that they have right now. From that point onwards, where I had a cognitive dissonance of like, okay, I have to now start to understand my people. Where do I come from? What does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be colored in this space, in this racist, segregated space? What does it mean? I think I started to seek out people not only who looked like me, but who also challenged my way of thinking, my previous way of thinking, so that I could grow into a better person and so that I could have a better understanding of where Cape Town comes from and how I can, as an individual, navigate my space. It's very difficult. My name is Kim and I'm from Cape Town. I'm pretty keen to speak about like experiences of Cape Town, or like just like where you live and what you do and like who you are and so on. So yeah, let's talk about ourselves. I don't think there's like a lot of space where young colored kids can get together and actually have a conversation about their experiences. So it would be pretty cool if we can just talk about who we are and so on.
I grew up in Hanover Park, which is on the Cape Flats. And I grew up there, I was raised there, I was born there, and I still stay there. I struggled at the beginning with this documentary because I didn't want people to see like my house or my home or my family or whatever, because in my head they already had this image of me. And even though I say like, oh, I come from the hood and this and this and this and this, still a part of me was like, no, but you don't need to see that. There's no such thing as space at home. Like I stay in like a 2-bedroom house with like my mother, my grandfather, my sister, my brother and her 2 kids. So there's no space and there's always people at my house.
There's council houses, we don't own these houses. Like, I feel like this council house is like a generational curse, because it's like if my grandfather dies, like my mother probably is going to get the house, because this is all that the people know, and people fight over these houses when their parents die and they don't even own it.
Like you can't even put like you stay in an overpark on some application forms because they won't take you seriously. But if I put the observatory, seapoint or something, they would like, okay, cool. But if it's like Nyanga, Hanover Park, Manenberg, it's like no broken home.
The question about land is very, very sensitive, because I'm like, how will it not affect us? It doesn't matter whether you are living in Woodstock and you can't afford the bougie lifestyle that you expect people living close to the CBD to be able to live. It affects your quality of life completely. So land and where we were pushed out to go and live, there is no way that it could not and still does not affect us. So now you sit with people who had to live there for about 50 years and they're still living there because there's no way that they can economically get out of the situation that they were forced into.
We stayed in District 6, the Maria Street. I moved to this place the 1st of June in Hanover Park. I didn't even know where it was. The 1st of June, 1970. And with God's grace, the 1st of June this year, I will be staying here for 47 years. But you know, that's a one part. But the other part is this, it's so amazing. I've been staying here for all that time, and still this place doesn't belong to me. What can I show my grandchildren?
Like my grandfather always speaks about like District 6 and even my grandmother when she was alive, like how it was back in the day. Yes, there was crime, but it wasn't like as it is now. They had the mountain as their background. They stayed like in like nice areas, and he always talks about the house. He remembers how nice it was staying in District 6. Like black people, Indian people, everyone stayed there, and they all got along. Like I think he misses that. In the hood, it's like survival. That place was just designed that way. People, they were dumped there.
I'm getting older. I would have liked to raise them all in District 6, you know. But as the going goes today, if you got money, you can stay anywhere. Sometimes I go on my knees, I ask God, what do you want from me? I'm tired. But God's going to show me one day what He wants from me.
Like we own nothing. Like we have nothing. We don't own the house that we've been paying rent for over 50 years.
Who does it belong to?
To the government.
The government.
Provincial, yeah.
Yeah, council houses. With the houses in District 6, like we were there, and because they giving the people back like the house or property, that used to stay there, like my grandfather them.
But is that possible for you and your family to go and claim that, or what?
Is like I think my grandfather went, but he went, but we're still waiting.
Sit with Lavern, whose family in previous years was dispossessed, and their land was taken from them, and the places where they were living and where they made their livelihood, where they were living in District 6, and then they were sent to live in Hanover Park under the new Group Areas Act.
Like if they really wanted to give us our land or whatever back, then if we are, where do we go? Where do we start? Like I don't think that there was a lot of advertisement to say that, look, this and this is happening. Why don't, like, come claim your land back, come claim your houses back, this is the forms that they need to get.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's no facilitation or people coming to actually guide people through this process? Why do you think there's no?
Because they want to keep us where we are. They're like,
It's either rich to rich.
Yeah, they want to keep us where we are, and with gang violence that's increasing and all that shit, is just we're supposed to stay there and die there.
Like kill ourselves, basically.
Yeah, kill ourselves so that everyone else can just live their life.
And you can see very clearly still the pain that sits on this generation. She's obviously of a younger generation, and she wasn't living there at that time, but she still carries that pain and that knowledge, of the injustice that was carried out against her family, because, although she wasn't living there, it happened to her.
This is my home. My bags are basically like my home. Like I live out of my backpacks. Like everything is in here. Something on my face, something on my skin, underwear, socks, clothes, just in case I'm gonna sleep over, my work stuff. That's why I always carry 2 bags with me.
Lavern is on her own, she's very independent, she's on her own. Yeah. She was away here for a couple of months. I missed her.
I disconnected from the hood so much because I don't spend my time here. I don't spend any of my time here. I wash, sleep, and then I go. Sometimes I don't even sleep here. I told you I live out of my backpack because I go around. Things that happened in the past shaped my life, and it's affecting my reality. I'm like living my past in my reality kind of a thing. I struggle with everything. It's a constant fight between what I've known and what I know now.
It was my first day of primary school, and I still didn't know how to tie shoelaces when I was, I think, 6 years old, yes. And my granny tied my shoelaces and put my jersey on, and in that moment I felt ready for school because she had given a blessing with putting up my jersey on. She looked at me so proudly, and that's when I knew that I was ready. This would be a new chapter in my life. This is love here. This is like the foundation of my being. Like my home is my foundation. Like when I feel lost, I know that I have a place to stay, at least sleep here, and I make good memories with my parents and my friends. They always come here, and we always have a good laugh. Listen to music, and I've become so accustomed to it. I know where everything is. I can go to the kitchen and take a knife and fork with my eyes closed. Get to know a lot of people in your neighborhood. Like when I was younger, I didn't really walk outside, but now if I walk outside, I see, hey, that guy goes to my school, or let me go have a conversation with him, and then we end up doing something for the day. So that's why I like being so close to school. Like it alleviates a lot of pressure. Like I don't have to travel anywhere. I just have to wake up, shower, eat something, drink something, go to school, come back, do my work, read over the notes that I've written today, and then go sleep again. So it's not a vicious cycle, it's a good cycle because I don't have to, and also economics, I don't have to waste any money traveling. I just walk to school. Morning, Uncle Michael.
Yeah, cool. You're getting news on TV.
I'm being filmed.
America.
Not for America, for South Africa. Like I like to feel that everyone is my friend because I'm not a rude person. I'm not rude to anybody. So everyone knows that knows me to be a polite person and not to be rude. So.
I was watching the news, and in that news hour, Chris Jennis was the Minister of Housing at the time. Then he announced that government housing will be open for all. The very next day, which was the Thursday, I then went up to the government offices. I got the forms. Then I took the forms back, went back to my workplace, filled it in, and I was supposed to have taken it back the very next day, but then I couldn't wait. I took it back that very same day, the afternoon. Then came the waiting period. And on the other end of the line was the lady, Miss Rochford, that at the time was issuing these houses. She told me, Mr. Salagee, I've got a house for you in Plumstead. The 1st of September, 94, I then moved into this house. They called me into the office, handed me the keys, I had to pay my deposit, got the keys, and I moved in.
The environment has been conducive, it's been good in terms of raising a child and directing a child into, say, adulthood without all the social ills that could come about in communities and that communities are facing daily in the Western Cape.
About 2 years ago, we got an envelope in the letterbox, and it said there that our family has been asked to move from Plumstead to Pelican Park. And my family has been living there personally for 23 years. I've been there all my life. And this was a total outrage because my granny is of age. She has to be uprooted. She has to pay money to go get her stuff at the hospital or something. And we have all of those facilities in Plumstead. And when I read the letter personally, I flipped out because why must this happen again? Is it now not a racial segregation? Is it economic segregation? If you don't have money, must you move and start over somewhere else?
Before the Dutch came here, it wasn't like the people who were living here, the Khoi or the Bushmans, weren't aware of foreigners. I mean, foreigners came, they did the trading, they did the bartering, and they left. And then when the Dutch came here, they came to settle, which changed everything. The Khoi occupied spaces, occupied the CBD that we know now as Cape Town. They occupied all of the spaces. They occupied Saldanha Bay, which is up the west coast, and St. Helena Bay. We occupied all of these spaces, Kirstenbosch, all of there where the Tafelberg is, that we lived all over in those areas. But slowly but surely, they started to push our people out by using it under the gaze of we now have more livestock than you, so our livestock needs to graze in the areas that you used to occupy. And that is then how they pushed us out and then also forced us to come back to them and say, we need you now because we need money. We actually don't have any more food and we are busy dying. And that is how I understand how land was used as a way to disarm us. 23, 24 years around there. We've been living here, they've been living here that time, and that's more than a bond. And now they just want us to move because of what? Because they want to make money. And we must just live with it because we're not as
fortunate there's other people that can buy their own houses. So I thought, now why can't they just sell these houses to our parents that they've worked so hard to put the things that they want to put into these houses? A new geyser, tiles, a bedroom, a desk, things like that. Immovable things, and then they just want to demolish these houses that we've put so much into. It's ludicrous, it's insane, it's insanity to think that your fellow person, a human being wants to take a thing or my foundation away from me like that.
They haven't learned anything from what happened in the 60s. It's just like they know what happened and they know the consequences thereof, which is what we have now in Cape Flats. So, like, why do they want to do the same thing again?
Social media has always been a good thing. It's been a place where you can engage with people, start a conversation, or continue conversations that have been happening for decades now already on a platform that is available to many people. I think the danger with social media is that we like to climb on our high horse. So we will say something, and then when someone tries to hold us accountable for what we said, or they ask us to substantiate a statement that we made, we're like, hey, this person is now saying I'm wrong, or this person is now saying that now I must now defend my title, or like, my social media, social justice warrior, whatever it is. If someone says that reverse racism is a thing, many people will just jump on the bandwagon and say that yes, reverse racism actually exists, but it actually doesn't. Structurally, I have no power, so I can't be racist.
Continuing with selling well-located pieces of land, and in that process, evicting the poor people who are staying in places like Sea Point, Woodstock, Swat River, into the peripheries of the city.
My name is Ngosikona Swatboy. I'm an organizer for an organization called Ndifuna Ukwazi. I'm staying in Kailicha. In the campaign that we're supporting, which is called the Reclaim the City movement, we're actually raising these issues and saying, you can't be evicting, you can't be pushing people far from the city during the apartheid era, and even during the democratic times. You're having your people being pushed far from their cities and far from benefiting. That will also have an economic exclusion. We operate in two ways. So our strategy is expand and protect. So expand looks into expanding access for people to access the city itself, and to make sure that all well-located pieces of land are prioritized for housing. And secondly, to stop the government from selling all well-located pieces of land and the capture of public land by big private property developers. In the protect side of our strategy is to make sure that all tenants living in the city bowl who have been evicted and who are facing to face evictions on daily basis in places like Woodstock, Plumstead, Sea Point, and other areas, because private property developers would come into town.
While my mom first, she started NERA, Naruna Estates Residents Association, where they voiced their opinion about what is happening here. And then my mom met up with people from Reclaim the City, and she automatically joined. And I went to one rally, and then they asked if I could be part of the youth one, and then I want to be part of it.
My Instagram, my Facebook is just me saying what I think, saying what I feel, like the conversations that I have with people in my inbox. Kinda made me feel like a god, because I created this universe for myself.
Lavern really just, she is a social media persona. She has a social media persona. I say persona because we aren't who we are on Facebook and on Instagram. It's different versions to us.
We feel ashamed of the life that we live.
because people are like looking at us, we need to now portray a certain image. Yes, I come from the hood that shaped like me as a person. That's like a good example of what I don't want to be, what I don't want for myself, what I don't want for other people, you know? The land that you're occupying now is basically a world. You exist there. It's almost like a generational curse if you don't like fight. If you don't like fight or find other avenues to explore, to like just get out. That's why I say the taxi rank is like my favorite place because it takes me out of the hood.
And you?
Well, for me, it's the complete opposite. Because in Plumstead, I'm always in Plumstead because I have friends there. I play cricket there. I do what I enjoy doing there, and it's just that I feel that I'm comfortable in my environment to do anything and to express myself.
I feel more comfortable outside of my hood. I'm very disconnected from my hood. I don't feel safe doing anything there.
People in the hood, they don't even look forward to people coming there anymore to do some sort of teaching. Because they're scared, and I can't blame them. I can't blame them for being scared to come to the hood because the hood just is what it is. But at the end of the day, I feel like the hood was just created for people to stay and die. That's why they're building malls and calling it job opportunities.
That is not where I, was designed to be, maybe, to be placed, whatever. And somehow someone that is designing this is doing this wrong because he's putting people that are in positions of gifts, artistic gifts, not only artistic gifts, there's mathematicians. We have of everything.
It's as simple as this. Until that cycle breaks, that's how it's going to continue.
That's the question.
I'm saying this. I'm saying. You asking how the whole time. Because there's no explanation. But it's because the cycle hasn't been broken, because people are accepting that.
People were scattered around the city. I'm sure the group areas, it was black and colored, but people were not allowed to be staying in one community. And if you can trace that back where it started in 1952, with District 6, people being scattered around and seeing the fact that the spatial planning of Cape Town is in the inner city, you would find predominantly white people. But if you had to travel 10 k's away from the inner city towards Somerset, your first 10 k's would introduce you to what was known as the colored areas. And if you had to travel 25 k's more further to Somerset, that 25 k's would introduce you to what was known as the native yards. So that's how Cape Town was structured during the apartheid time, and this is how Cape Town is structured now, 23 years after we got democracy.
Of course, that pain also gets translated to the next generation, like people like you.
Generational curse.
It's generational.
In my mind, 23 years ago, I thought I'm settled here. But for the life of me, what I can't understand, as a person of colour, am I finding myself on the wrong space of South Africa? That it runs from generation to generation, that you must be moved to a space where the government sees fit.
What we're talking about now on the Plumstead area is just the remaining rental stock that the apartheid government built. And those rental stocks have been managed through different areas by different policies. The province is trying to apply a new policy to people who have existed or lived in that area for decades. Because they went into this community and said everyone who's earning less than 3.5 would have to leave. The MEC for Human Settlements skipped all these phases. By law, they're supposed to formulate a policy and open for public participation and then implement. When we heard of this, we contacted them directly and asked them what's happening and tried to get clarity on what's happening at Plumstead. And they always referred to this new policy that they formulated, and we asked them to give us a copy of that policy. But what they did is to just send government officials to go to Plumstead and to deliver these letters that people got to say people will have to be moved to Pelican Park.
So you sit and you live in your dwelling for over 20, 30 years. One night you get called to a school hall, and when you arrive at the school hall, You are told no to 3,500 rand, you now have to go to Pelican Park. 3,500 to 15,000 rand, you can remain and stay. So is that public participation? No, it was more of a public announcement. So unilaterally decisions are taken and people are just expected to be in line as far as those decisions is concerned.
How far is Pelican Park from Plumstead?
I'm not sure, but it seems years away from me. I don't know anybody there, I don't know my surroundings, so just the fear of being in an unknown space and getting to know it is also quite a big fear for me.
I'm thinking of my grandson, where he come from, where he lived, had his schooling and all, now to uproot him, to take him into that environment. He's got to be double as strong as what he is.
We only have one high school here and one primary school. And if it's full, it is full.
It's not right. It's not fair. It destroys my order completely. Because you could see early on, I was in my space. But if I'm not in my space, I just retract. You know, they say, what do they say? Stick to what you know. But this is not what I know, so I won't stick to it.
So it's a similar thing that the apartheid government did, to take people from well-located areas and to put them in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing. Pelican Park, where there are no basic services available for residents.
If you're used to living in a certain community, I mean, even if you look closer to where we are now during apartheid times in the Group Areas Act, it's the same thing. Like, our people were living in certain areas and they made their lives there. They had children there. They had memories and experiences. They buried their loved ones where they lived. It wasn't just the thing of, this is where I live. This is my community. And I mean, the sense of community was completely lost. The genocide that happened to the Khoi and to the Busmans is horrible. Like, there's just no other way to look at it. They came and they killed us off, and they took the land and they took whatever resources we had for themselves. And when I speak about for themselves, I'm talking about white people, and I'm talking about, especially now in this context, the Dutch. So I don't think the question should be how, did it affect us? I mean, how did it not affect us? I mean, we sit now with displacement. We sit with people who are hundreds of years later still fighting for their land.
I moved out of the hood a couple of times. It just never worked out for me. I always find myself back there.
Me, it's different because I know how my granny and my mother, how my mother grew up and how my granny raised her. It was very difficult because they were backyard dwellers. Separate entrance here, separate entrance there. And this house in Tarmath Road, Plumstead, is the first house that they've lived in. The first time that they can call a place fully, home. And now they want to take it away from him.
You have to look at it from a collective perspective, not just the present of what's happening right now, but what happened in the past. And what did other people do in order for, these situations to occur? Like the Group Areas Act, and how they actually took people from where they were living and put them in another place, almost like that's fine, like taking away our livelihoods and our sense of selves and our land from us is fine. And our identity, exactly.
I was brave enough to explore that because I always knew that I wasn't supposed to be like, this is not where it ends, like the wood is not where it ends.
How would you, because you say you do want to go back home in some form and feel free and open to do that back home. What can we do to bring that openness and safe space When I say safe space, I don't mean that the place is dangerous. I mean safe space
I
for
know.
the people who live there as well. To, experience what you experience, but not necessarily outside of home, but there where you find yourself every day.
The best experts are the people that's in the community. They know what they need or what they want. So ask us or ask, and not get other people to like look around and judge for themselves. They don't know what it is to stay in the hood.
They don't have that experience.
Yeah, I don't know now.
Exactly.
I don't know now what it is that we need in the hood because I am so disconnected from the hood. So I need to first reconnect before I can help. I've never done a shoot like in my hood, so like I think it will be cool. It will be scary as well. And I don't know, I think we should do that. Like, let's just see how it goes.
And she really wants to do the things that she does outside of the place that she calls home, at home. And so we came up with the idea that she can have a photo shoot, because she does photo shoots, like body positive photo shoots, just because that is her brand. And we have these shoots there with the people from the community, with her friends, so that they can also, in a small sense, have the same experience that she has had, So I think it's also a good thing for her, within her own soul.
Cape Flats is like the forgotten city or the forgotten people. Like when people speak about underprivileged, it's always the locations. It's always like the Khayelitsha and the Guguletus and stuff.
Like, people always associate the Cape Flats with violence, gangsterism, drugs. You always see these things on TV and you're like, I don't want to go there, but you never know the people's stories, and also like the inner people of the Cape Flats, like the core of the Cape Flats, because not everybody is bad. I don't believe everybody is a gangster or is a drug dealer in the Cape Flats. People have dreams, they want to aspire to their dreams. And since I've become more aware of gentrification, I've noticed people's economic struggles. Like they said, they always say children shouldn't worry, but when you hear these stories about how people just scrape by, it's a repetitive cycle. It's just a different thing. I mean, it was race, it was gender, and now it's money. There's always something that people use, a commodity to weigh people up against each other.
And the places that these people are targeting is these places that are well located, and very close to the CBD. And the problem with that is the fact that the government opens up for private property developers to come into town and to take over these places. If you are to look at Woodstock, for instance, you would find that there's like generations of people that have lived in Woodstock. I know in Brownmore Street in Woodstock, where there are families, more than 20 families that are facing eviction, and that matter is in court currently, that they have to leave and vacate an area where most of them were born in.
We are struggling against a Woodstock hub who is evicting us. We are going on the same route as everybody else in Cape Town. Not only Bromwell Street, it's Sea Point, it's Woodstock. People are getting evicted all over because it's not right for people to get put out on the street with their children. We want our city back. We want to stay in the inner city because why can't we? And we want our land. We are going nowhere unless they give us housing, affordable housing in this inner city, because we are going to claim our land back.
They don't take them away from just their home, right? They take them away from the infrastructure that they had in their places where they were living before. The doctors, the shops, your social services in general. They took that away from people. And that for me is the biggest injustice. Besides their houses, is the bigger injustice also.
What is the process now? What are you doing?
We're living in uncertainty, because what if they just rock up one day? Because like we haven't signed the lease, and my parents went to they picketed to Parliament, and the phrase was, "Hell no, we won't go." They were chanting that down the streets, and the MEC of Housing just said nothing after that. After they picketed, he said nothing.
All we want is answers, is consultation on the matter, is education on the matter, so that it can be comprehended more appropriately.
My biggest thing is that I want to look these people in the face that are doing this to me and my family and the rest of the people in Plumstead and the other affected communities, and ask, why are you doing this? Because if they were empathetic enough, they would put themselves into our shoes and see what it's like to live like us. Imagine someone told maybe the MEC or the Minister of Housing, you can't live here anymore. You'd pull resources to be like, what are you doing? It's in my house. Now that's the same way that I feel about it. It's my house.
Yeah.
It's my home.
So you want to meet with the minister or with the people?
Preferably the minister, because yeah, I've got a bone to pick with him.
The Human Settlements Department was previously called the Housing Department. And it was changed because it wasn't meeting its application to undo the legacy of apartheid. Through apartheid, so many families and homes were destroyed. And so now the responsibility that the Human Settlements has is to make sure that the residents in Cape Town or in the Western Cape are protected. As in the Constitution, as it stated that no one will have their homes demolished or be evicted into homelessness. But we see those happening in places like Cape Town. And you ask yourself, what role does the Human Settlements play?
So, good morning, Minister. I'm Jayden. I just like to ask a few questions because about 2 years ago, we received a letter that we need to move from our house to Pelican Park. And I would just like to know why that has happened.
It has come to my attention that many people are not honoring their lease agreements. Usually, you are given a notice. After that notice, you're chucked out in the street.
It's not my family only. It's, I think, more than 100 other families that are affected that have been asked to move to Pelican Park. And also, my other problem is that some people have been living there for 20, 30, 40 years. Why can't they be offered title deeds because they've been paying longer than a bond on their houses?
It's like you saying that I have been coming to this store. I mean, this is a store where you hire suits, for example. You can't say, well, I've been coming to this store hiring suits for so long, so now I must be given this suit. In a rental accommodation, the policy is very clear, is that you are a tenant, which means you commit to pay rent. There are options for ownership, and Plumstead is not one of those stock that is for ownership. We don't want people to end up in the street. It is so unfortunate that the only place that we have where we are developing is Pelican Park, which is far from Plumstead. And I sympathize with you and many other families. But from where I'm sitting, Jayden, I have to say, well, if you fail to honor this agreement, we chuck you out, or we offer an option for you, which is your decision whether you take or not.
Oh, you said that was an option, yes, right, from Plumstead to Pelican Park. Now, is there any reason why we have, besides the rent, why we have to move from Plumstead to Pelican Park? Because now, what if people are paying rent, but irrespective of them paying rent, they still get asked or the option to move to Pelican Park?
This is not just about those families who already have shelter. We have a responsibility here. You and I know that there are thousands of people. I just said to you now, there are more than 526,000 families who are living in squalor, who will actually give an arm and a leg to own a home in Pelican Park. And here, we are here trivializing the issue because a family that is struggling to pay has been offered an opportunity by government to own a home, when we have thousands of people who are living in squalor, who would give an arm and a leg to own that home. Take care.
You too.
And all the best. And I'm hoping to see you soon.
I'm in a very dark space at the moment. I'm outraged by what he said. I really wanted to speak to him, find out why, and then he says I got it all wrong. That's it. That was his first answer to me. Jayden, you've got it all wrong. That's what he said. They said that if you are a rent payer, you shouldn't get a letter. But I know, as well as my family, as well as other rent-paying families, we got letters. I asked him, now besides people paying rent, is there any other reason why rent-paying people should move to Pelican Park? And he froze up, I think he froze up a little bit, and then he answered me with that same thing of more than 520,000 families in need a home. They would give an arm and a leg to live in Pelican Park. And it was a to and fro the whole time, and then in the end of it I just got tired and I just stopped asking questions. I shook his hand and I left.
It's so frustrating not like getting answers, because I know you didn't expect to go in there and get answers, but
not
there's
like
always like a shred of hope.
Not like answers, but maybe from his answers I could get guidance to do what I want to do. But I got nothing.
When I saw Jayden, I thought he was quiet, but then as I got to know him, he's like a really sweet boy. I think his future is very bright. Like
it baffles me when I look at myself now as to how I got to this point, because people say I have such a strong will. I don't know actually, but I just feel that I have the power to conquer anything through my childhood.
But it's easy to say that you only want to focus on yourself and like move on into the future when you've never really fit in anywhere because of your direct dispossession of whether it be land or just your culture or just your identity as a group of people. To me, it was very nice to have these conversations with them. People who were also born in Cape Town, but who have such vast and different experiences of Cape Town and of life.